Hello everybody and welcome back to another album review / reaction here on my channel. If you've never seen any of my videos before, just know that what I'm going to basically be doing is sitting here and hitting play on my CD player and listening to the new Acoustic Demon Hunter album all the way from front to back and talking over it. I will not be including the actual audio from the CD from the album in this video. So if you'd like to listen along with me, I will include a link in the description to play the album along on Spotify. If you have your own copy of the album, just go ahead and play that. If you've never heard the album before, I recommend listening to it before you watch my video. You could listen to it for the first time with me, but it'll be pretty hard to focus because I'm going to be doing a lot of talking over the music. Basically, I'll just be talking the whole time. Or at least that's what I'm hoping I'm going to do. We'll see. This is the first time I've ever listened to it, sort of like an acoustic album, and reacted to it before. Another thing I want to mention is in the description of this video as well, you'll notice I put timestamps throughout the video. If you looked on the timeline of the video, you'll have noticed that. If you want to skip everything and go right to the end and hear my sort of overall thoughts, you can do that. If you have a favorite song on this album you'd like to hear my opinions on, you just go ahead and click to that song. I'll put all sorts of timestamps in there for all the sort of relevant things that happen, but specifically the different songs as I'm listening to them throughout the album. Before we get started, I want to make sure that I mention that I am a big Demon Hunter fan. I'm wearing my Demon Hunter shirt that I bought at one of their concerts that I got to see them. I actually have been privileged enough to see them twice, both times. Well, once in Omaha, Nebraska, and once in Lincoln, Nebraska. And the time I got to see them in Lincoln, I got to see them playing with In Flames, which is one of my other favorite metal bands. And so that was a very amazing show. And then I actually got to see them headline in Omaha at the Sokol Underground, which is a sort of small venue for people who know. Most people obviously watching this won't know that, but it was the absolute hottest concert I've ever been, probably the hottest I've ever been in my life. It was well over 100 degrees. People were packed in. People were sweating all over each other. Sweat was flying. Tears were flowing. It was amazing, as any Demon Hunter show should be, but this was absolutely incredible, but I don't want to talk about that too much. I do want to say, as I said, I'm a big fan of Demon Hunter. I have their entire catalog of all 10 of their albums. I include Peace and War and Peace as a double album, so I'm only including that as one. But I have their entire album catalog here on CD, including, actually, I have 2 copies of Storm the Gates of Hell because I have the regular edition, and then later I found the deluxe edition, which has 2 bonus songs, which is really cool. But anyway, I also have, and I wanted to mention this specifically because maybe not everybody knows this, the documentary 45 Days. If you're not aware of what this is and you're a fan of Demon Hunter, a more recent fan, or a fan from the old day and this somehow went by you, I highly recommend looking this up. This is an amazing documentary on DVD. It also comes with a live show of them performing live in Nashville, Tennessee, and it comes with a bonus CD as well that has the music that was on here, which includes some acoustic tracks. But the documentary itself is following several big Demon Hunter fans as they get ready to go to the show, sort of talking about their lives, things that are going on with them, and then getting to the show. It's actually an amazing documentary, and one of the things I love the most about it is that there is actually none of Demon Hunter's music in this documentary. It's very artistically well done. I highly, highly recommend. So this is 45 Days by Demon Hunter if you've never heard that. So as I mentioned, I'm a big fan of Demon Hunter, got all their albums. I am really looking forward to what we're going to be listening to today because I have really, really high hopes for it. I am not in general like a huge fan of acoustic stuff. However, with certain bands, it really works with them. And I think Demon Hunter is one band where it really works with. All of their albums have the sort of more ballady, slow song on them. And those are all really fantastic songs going all the way back to their first album. They have released acoustic versions of their songs over the years. I think on their first 2 or 3 albums, I think first 2 for sure, at the end of the album, if you let it play out, at least on the CD, for example, on their second album, which is Summer of Darkness, there is a acoustic version of My Heartstrings Come Undone after a few minutes of silence, and then that is like sort of a secret track at the end of the CD. And I think they did that with My Throat is an Open Grave on their first album, which I believe is their self-titled one. One thing, I am a little bit trepidatious of this album as well, though. One thing I need to mention, this is the album right here. I have actually not, for the purposes of this video, I have tried to not to look at the track listing of this album at all. So I really don't know what's going to be on here. I think being a Demon Hunter fan, I can sort of assume the songs that are going to be on here. As I mentioned, I'm going to assume that it's most of the ballads. I would really like if they took a couple of their heavier songs and made those acoustic as well. It's not necessarily as easy to do, but I hope that maybe we get one or two of those and we'll see. I don't think that there's any original material on here. I think it's all just newer acoustic versions of their previous sort of songs. But I don't know what the songs are that are going to be on there. I assume we're going to get, as I said earlier, my heartstrings come undone, my throat is an open grave, the tide began to rise. I was thinking maybe I've been going back through and listening to to their whole discography, basically the last couple weeks leading up to this, and really hardcore the last few days, just listening to all Demon Hunter, basically. I would really like to maybe hear 1000 Apologies. I think that's the name of the song. I'd like that one. My favorite Demon Hunter song of all time, there's two. I love I Will Fail You, which I think will probably be on the album. That would make sense to me if it was. And then also the song Thorns off of Storm the Gates of Hell. I love that song, and it would be awesome if they did that song, but it really wasn't one of the sort of more ballady songs. So it all kind of depends on what songs they decided to put on this album. I wanted to touch a little bit on production here before we get started, because that is something that I feel like Demon Hunter has not necessarily done perfectly throughout their career. I feel like production-wise, which if you've never watched any of my videos before, you'll know that I really tend to focus on production and the different sort of sounds that are being created. Maybe talk about how those sounds were achieved, or at least give my thoughts on how I thought it was recorded, things like that. And I don't really analyze lyrics or anything like that, and that wouldn't necessarily be, necessary for this video, since probably everyone watching it is familiar with the songs already, as I will be as well. So I don't think I'm going to be doing much lyrical breakdowns or anything like that. But I would like to say that Demon Hunter has had sort of shaky production, or at least not necessarily shaky, but not very consistent production on their albums throughout their career. Earlier on, they were a lot more sort of like, I feel like, raw metal, and there were elements of that still even all the way up until their most recent War and Peace albums. But earlier on, I feel like they were trying really hard, and this makes sense because they've been a band now for a very long time. I believe 2001 or 2002 was when their self-titled debut album came out. So they've been a band for 20 plus years now at this point. But back when I was in high school and I first discovered Demon Hunter, at the time, if you were a metal band and you had like a keyboard player in your band, or you used lots of samples and things like that, you were kind of considered less heavy, and you didn't have as much cred in the metal sphere, I guess, which sounds kind of ridiculous now, since every band uses all sorts of keyboards and dubstep elements and electronic this, electronic that, all those things. And I love all those things. I've said this before in many of my reviews. Some of my favorite parts of a lot of songs are the things that are in a song that aren't guitar, bass, drums, vocals. It's the extra special production things, the extra programmed elements or keyboard played elements, or things that are just in the song that aren't necessarily part of the actual band playing, something that they wouldn't necessarily be able to reproduce live. And so I'm hoping with this album we get elements like that. I don't want this album to feel constrained. Now, it is an acoustic album, at least that's my understanding of it. Although I'm hoping sort of more that it's more of like what I refer to as a candlelight album, which is when a band goes into the studio and does as much as they can to take the songs and sort of strip them down, but also keep them full of instrumentation, full of trying different things here, trying different things there, lots of layered vocals, things like that. There's different ways that a band can approach doing an acoustic album. You can keep it much more grounded, acoustic guitar and singing, maybe a little bit of bass, maybe a little bit of sort of like auxiliary percussion, tambourine shaker, things like that. And that's cool. I have bands' albums that have done whole albums like that, and it's nice. It's more stripped. It's more raw. It's maybe more intimate that way. But I vastly prefer when a band goes into the studio with everybody and they think of how they can take and rearrange these songs to make them very meaningful, but still full of of different sounds and different harmonies, things like that. Like I said, I really hope this album has lots of vocal overdubs. I think Ryan, the vocalist Ryan Clark for Demon Hunter, is a fantastic singer. He is one of my absolute favorite metal vocalists, and maybe just vocalists of all time. I love male vocalists with a slightly lower register volume or lower register of singing, and Ryan does that. He sings bass, he sings baritone, and I love that. I love those elements. So I want lots of sort of layered vocals. It would be awesome to me if they had like a choir or something, or maybe some guest female vocals. I do not know if that's going to be in this. I kind of think not, since I don't know if they've really ever done that in the past. Usually it's just Ryan, maybe some of the other guys in the band doing like a shout thing, or maybe some harmonies, but mostly, for the most part, it's just been Ryan. I hope that there's drums, like a full drum kit. I hope that there's bass, and I hope that there's layers of guitars as well. I don't want them to shy away from doing something just because they couldn't necessarily recreate it live, or that it didn't necessarily fit into the aesthetic of the acoustic, the sort of like candlelight aesthetic, as I mentioned before. Two of my absolute favorite sort of candlelight albums are the electronic group Lights. She has an acoustic candlelight album called Midnight Machines, which is an acoustic version of her album Little Machines. And that is exactly what I'm talking about here. That is what I want. I want piano, I want guitar, I want drums, I want bass of some kind. It'd be great if they played upright bass to keep it all acoustic, but that's definitely not necessary, and I don't think that's going to be the case here. Just play your electric bass or fretless bass. Sometimes you can find in acoustic or candlelight mixes. So if you're looking for a good candlelight album, check out Midnight Machines by Lights. Totally different genre than this, but one of the absolute most fantastic acoustic albums of all time, in my opinion. I need to open this because I haven't opened it yet. I actually just got it in the mail. And like I said, I'm trying not to look at the track listing of this because I want it to sort of be a surprise as I go through. I want, it'll be kind of like a guessing, like what song are we on now? As I said, I assume we're going to have My Heartstrings Come Undone. We're going to have probably Carry Me Down. We're going to have the songs that I would assume that Demon Hunter would do, even though I know that they have released those songs in acoustic form before. So I've just opened the album. Ooh, that's a very cool logo that they've got here. I'm not sure if you can tell. Zoom in on that. Very cool. For those of you who don't know, I believe Ryan and one of the other members of the band have a graphic design company where they make all the artwork for a lot of their album, for basically everything they do, plus a lot of other bands. I think they may have done some book covers, things like that. They do all sorts of cool artwork. What is it? It's Invisible Creatures. Is that what it's called? It's something like that. I apologize if that's not what it is, but I'm going to take a glance at the book here. I don't want to... Okay, so the last page is just the liner notes. I want to just look here and see what it says. Produced and mixed by Jeremiah Scott. So Jeremiah Scott is actually the guy that has done at least their last 4 to 5 albums with them. And that, on one hand, makes me very hopeful because he's been working with them for the many years at this point. At the same time, he has produced some of their albums that I do not particularly care for the way it sounds like in terms of like production quality. And I think more of that has to do with how it was recorded and not necessarily how it was mixed or how it was produced. But I'm not going to get too deep into all of that because that could be a long conversation. I could do a whole hour on just the production of Demon Hunter and some of the choices that they made. But we're not here to do that. We're here to talk about this album. Let's see what else it says. Oh no, it says recorded live in June of 2020. Okay, additional recording. Additional recording. Harmony vocals recorded later. Okay, so it looks like they tracked the songs live in studio, and that could mean all sorts of different things. You could use that wording even if it was just one person playing and then additional recordings were done later. For example, if the guitar player sat in a room and played the acoustic guitar track all the way through, and then afterwards they added everything else on top of that, even though he did play that through, if they didn't do too many edits to his guitar, you could still say that that was recorded live. I'm assuming what they mean is they probably had some drums, guitar, and bass, and Ryan doing scratch vocals. And I'm assuming that they recorded it all possibly in the same... Well, it'd be tough to do it in the same room because acoustic instruments are a lot quieter than electric instruments generally. And to have everyone in the same room would be very difficult with drums and everything. The drum sound would bleed into the acoustic guitar microphone, into Ryan's vocal microphone. So they probably had them split up throughout different rooms in the studio, hearing each other and monitoring on headphones. Ooh, okay, so I guess I just spoiled a little bit for me here. It says additional vocals on one of the songs, which I just learned the name of, and I don't recall it from any of their albums. So I know I'm just going to quit looking at this, but I did see a female vocalist listed, so that makes me very hopeful. We'll see what that is. I'm not sure. But the song was Loneliness. Loneliness. Okay. So I'm not going to look at this anymore because I don't want to spoil myself anymore. Loneliness is on there for sure. I might reference it throughout, though, I guess, if we go through it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say. I had all sorts of things built up because Demon Hunter is such a very special and important band to me that I wanted to make sure I had said, but generally I ramble in these videos so much anyway. It's probably better if we just get to it and we'll see. One last thing I do want to say now that I'm thinking about it. If this album is... There's no other word for it that I can think of. If this album is boring... and my reactions, I don't have much to say because every song is basically just the same exact thing. Well, I don't know what I'll do. I might not release this, or I might release it. If it is boring, I may have to talk negatively about the album. And I will definitely talk negatively about the album if I feel the album warrants it. But we'll just have to wait and see. So, all right, I'm getting my headphones. I will also say, and this is so ridiculous, but I've been having some trouble with my headphones connection, my headphone jack recently. I may have to adjust it as we're listening here occasionally because because it's not been working very well. The connection is not super great, and I've already taken and fixed these headphones once. While I'm putting this in, I'll just say one of the other things I was planning on mentioning is that my two favorite Demon Hunter albums are Extremist. I think that album is fantastic. That's why I purchased... I actually got to see them live on the Extremist tour. I believe that was when they were... when I got to see them in Omaha, just when they were sort of headlining the show in that extremely hot venue, and where I got this shirt and this vinyl album version of Extremist. I love Extremist, and I love Storm the Gates of Hell. I love their first three albums, which I know I think is most people's favorites of this band. And that tends to happen with a lot of bands because people discovered them early on. Anyway, I don't want to get too much into their whole history, but man, Demon Hunter has an interesting history, especially sonically, with the way their albums sound. So if you skip to this timestamp to avoid all the rigmarole at the beginning and my history with the band, welcome back. And I'm going to hit play in 3, 2, 1. We'll see if my CD player wants to work for me. Okay, so first thing we're hearing is piano. And this is a real piano in a room playing, not a digital sort of piano. Okay, we have strings, and that definitely sounds like real strings, and they are panned wide. I don't know if it's two takes of one instrument or two instruments spread. Ooh, those drums sound fantastic. Acoustic guitar in there. Mono acoustic guitar. The piano is recorded stereo and spread wide. That kick is massive. Man, those drums, the toms and the kick, massive. And you can get that in a room when the drummer is playing more quietly. Things have a tendency to reverberate more, and those sounds get into the microphones a little bit more than if you're just hitting things fast. Ooh, I love it. So I wonder if they had someone play the piano for this album with them that's not a member of the band, or if one of the members of the band is just a great piano player. Because whoever is playing the piano knows what they're doing. And we definitely have real strings playing along. It's going to be hard for me not to sing along with this. So far, no vocal overdubs at all. Just Ryan. The clarity of his track is really good. That was one of the things I was a little worried. I feel like on some of the Demon Hunter albums, Ryan has recorded his vocals himself, or maybe in a situation that wasn't ideal, and some of his vocals on some of the albums sound very thin. Okay, we have a vocal overdub here. I'm not sure if it's Ryan or someone else in the band doing the harmony part. The violin sounds like it's one violin, and then they did the stereo delay on it to make it sound very wide. But I could be wrong, and it sounds like there may be a cello in there as well. Ooh, the piano arrangement is the piano is the driving force of this song. So that's very surprising to me off the bat, but I really like it. Okay, that's definitely Ryan doing his vocal overdub. It's very tight. It just sounds like one vocal, basically. Oh, I love this. Oh. That kick has a lot of reverb on it as well, which is nice. It gives the drums have a lot of reverb, a lot of room in them, and I assume that part of that is probably they recorded them in a big open room, which is nice. That works perfectly for something like this. A lot of orchestral drums, things like that for orchestra or bigger projects like that are recorded in a big open room, so you get natural room sound in the drums if you want it, using some overhead microphones or even room microphones. But I believe I'm pretty certain that there's also some reverb added to the kick and snare, some of the drums after the fact to make it sound a little bit more, I don't want to say cavernous, but because the drums are such short attacks, having them tail more makes everything blend a little together. Okay, so that was My Throat is an Open Grave. I wonder if we're going to go chronologically here. This song, right off the bat, does not sound familiar to me, and I have to say, I love all 10 of Demon Hunter's albums, but like the other day I listened to Outlive, for example. I remember when that album came out, it disappointed me, and so I probably only really listened to it once. I listened to it 2 nights ago, and I did not recognize any of the songs off it at all, so I am not going to know every one of these songs, I don't think, which is okay. So here we started with a lot of things, and then it just went away, and it's acoustic guitar, mono, in the middle with Ryan's vocal. Now, Ryan's vocal does have a delay on it that's to the right first and then off to the left, and it's very prominent. However, they have low passed the delay pretty considerably, so you only hear the low to mid frequencies in it. You do not hear any high. Okay, I think I hear female vocals in there. I am so impressed with the sonic quality of what I'm hearing. There we have piano now. The piano is sort of the thing that's taking up the most space in the mix. It's very wide. They have reverb on it. Everything sounds pretty washy. Not necessarily everything. Ryan's vocals are pretty dry, minus the sort of delay I mentioned, and there is reverb on his vocals as well, but I would say overall it is more dry than it is wet, which is perfect for this because that lends the intimacy to it. So if it is a female vocal in there, it's pretty far back. And I noticed that the lady was Peggy Clark, which could be Ryan or his brother who is in the band, one of their wives or a sister or mother, I'm not positive. Could just have the same name as Clark. I love that element in there, though. I wish it was a little bit louder, but it is a background vocal, so I'm okay with it in the mix the way it is. The mix is, in terms of the volume of everything, so far is perfect. I have not heard any stereo acoustic guitars, and I'm okay with that decision. We have an acoustic guitar solo now, which is very lovely. Key change. This song does not sound familiar to me, so I'm going to guess it's off of either True Defiance or Outlive, because those are my two least favorite Demon Hunter albums. It does ring a little bit of a bell. Now, of course, it could be a vastly different arrangement, something that I'm not too familiar with, because this could be one of their metal songs that they decided to make into an acoustic song. I like the vocalists in there. This is nice. That kick is still massive, and I love it. The snare... Okay, I was wondering about this. Because earlier on in their career, Demon Hunter liked to go in the studio and leave everything there. And one of the things that they did earlier on that they do a lot less of now is Ryan was very, very apt to have phrases lyrically that would overlap each other, or multiple parts that overlap, which is pretty common. But he would do it in verses and in choruses a lot. Sing a phrase and have it extend over where the next phrase starts, which obviously could present a problem live, having to do it much faster and cut things off. So I was wondering how they were going to do things like this, things like that, and having the additional background vocals in there, or just having Ryan overdub himself multiple times is how they fix that. Or don't, and not necessarily fix it, it's not necessarily a problem, but I was wondering what they were going to do with that. And I'm glad to see that they just went ahead and did it the right way, which is to just add as many vocal tracks into the song that they needed. Now that sounds almost like bagpipes in there. Some sort of a pipey sounding thing. Could have been done on a keyboard, I'm not sure. The snare drum is very reverby and washy. And it sounds like it's far away. And I think that that's okay in this case. Because, and it has been throughout the first two songs now, because a snare drum can be a very harsh thing. And I'm not hearing any harsh tones in these songs. Everything is pulled back in terms of the harshness, the higher frequencies. Okay, track 3. Okay, acoustic guitar, mono, in the middle. Much more present, though. Is this Heart of a Graveyard? It is. Heart of a Graveyard, also one of my favorite Demon Hunter songs. Again, off of Extremist. I'm interested to see what they do here. I missed the cool synth part, but it's okay. I feel like the snare is a little less wet here, but the snare has a very wide reverb on it. And again, part of that could be the room they were in, though I don't think that it would bloom out the way that it is if it wasn't sort of an in-the-box reverb. So I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But it works. The drums definitely were played softer, I feel, and I bet Yogi, the drummer, had a lot of fun with that. Fought in the dark. I'll try really hard not to sing, because I have to line my audio up with the... doesn't matter, but... Okay, so now that's interesting. The Yogi is doing crashes, and it is very far back. A crash would generally be very loud, and with metal, crashes, cymbals are so important. when you're talking about metal. If you're not the kind of person that tends to listen to the drums that much or necessarily focus on the individual instrumentation of the different things, next time you listen to a Demon Hunter album or any metal album or any heavy music whatsoever, listen to just the cymbals. Just pay attention to them through the whole song. Then listen to a different song from a different band and see how they approach it and if they approach it the same way. Cymbals are such a very, very interesting thing. And in this case, I believe we have open hi-hats, whereas during the chorus here, we're going to have crashes. Yeah, crashes. That could be crashing on the ride, on the outer rim of the ride to make it more of a crashy sound, splashy sound. But it's very mixed in the back. But what I guess what I should have been getting at is that makes it feel big and like things are happening, and it makes it separate it much more from the parts of the song that don't have cymbals ringing all over the place. It's a way for the drummer to bring the intensity up. So there we have open hi-hat here. Piano doing the chords. Guitar has just been strumming basically the whole time in the middle. And you can run into problems with that if you have too much high frequencies into the acoustic guitar. It can sound too shiny, too bright, too not necessarily shrill, but too gosh, it's tough. Too shiny, I guess. That's just the best word. The frequencies can really impact the higher frequencies in Ryan's voice, even though he's singing lower notes here as a baritone. I believe baritone would be what he's singing. Or maybe even bass. I'm not really a vocal guy. We also had Ryan doing just one very tight overdub harmony there. So not a lot of vocals, and so far no vocals spread out really whatsoever. But I'll get to that maybe later on. I want to finish my thought there. What was I even talking about? Oh, the acoustic guitar, having it be too high frequency, too shiny? I know I said that already, but too shiny would be interfering with the higher frequencies in Ryan's voice. And having it mixed in the middle with Ryan means that you would think that might fight, but if it was farther to the right or to the left in terms of panning, it would draw your ear away from it. Having both things in the middle means your ear can focus in the middle, and Ryan is sitting on top of it very nicely, and he has more high frequencies in his voice, like the super highs, like 7K and above, than the acoustic guitar, which might not have anything above 6K or 7K. Okay. Piano song here. I would say the last song was guitar driven. Again, the piano is being used to fill the space the most, but it was still an acoustic guitar driven song, this piano song. And I do not recognize it immediately. I will say right now, I really hope that Tide Began to Rise is the final song on the album. I feel like it's the best closing song Demon Hunter has ever done, and the way that it ends with that, if this is all the love my spirit can give, there's not a reason more to live. Building that and building it and having these elements to it could make it a fantastic closing song for this acoustic album, as well as the triptych, Demon Hunter's third album. So we have strings here. And we got multiple strings. Could be one string player doing multiple parts or multiple string players in the room doing it together. I will say it does not sound like it was recorded stereo or anything like that. It is definitely real strings, though. And not played on a keyboard. Can really hear the strings there. Jump, 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 jump. Definitely a big string part on here. Their song 16 off of Storm the Gates of Hell, I believe, is one of the first songs that they had real strings on, or at least they had a string quartet playing on that. And that sounded like those strings on that track sounded very raw, and that's what this sounds like. Not overly compressed, very close microphone. Close mic'd. You hear the rosin on the strings. You hear the scratchiness of the string. Some people prefer to record stringed instruments from farther away. You get less of the intimacy of that, more of the sort of lushness of it. And Demon Hunter has always done close mic'd strings. No acoustic guitar in this song whatsoever. Might have an additional person doing a background vocal in this song. This song does not sound familiar to me at all. Man, let's just take a second. How fantastic is Ryan Clark? How fantastic. It is, I would imagine that it's much harder for a metal vocalist to do something like this. And I'm not sure, if Ryan is a perfectionist. A lot of vocalists are. And he is so good at doing all of his overdubs and things like that. I would imagine he is very prepared when it comes to doing vocal arrangements and things like that. And this, he knocked it out of the park so far with everything I've heard. I haven't really been paying attention to song track. We're on track, or a song number. We're on track 4. I'm just so happy that this sounds as good as it does. Part of me was just scared that we were going to not get the effort put into this. Not to say that you're lazy if you just have an acoustic guitar and someone's singing with some shakers or something. But I wanted this to be special, and it is special. Every song we've had so far has been special. The arrangements have been specifically for this. Amazing. The strings in that song totally took that song to the next level. That was a string song. Okay, we're on track 5 now. Now that's either a cello or a bass. An upright. Ooh, I love this. Now this one might have a acoustic overdub on it. There definitely is the acoustic guitar in the middle where it has existed so far. But I feel like there's a little bit more acoustic guitar going on. And the drums we just have riding on the ride. Lightly. Female background vocals on this one, maybe? Ooh. Ooh, that church bell sound. Oh. This is the best song on the album so far. And this song is familiar to me now. I can't tell you exactly which album. One thing that I do love about Demon Hunter, and I don't know if it's just the way that their tuning of their guitars is or what, but you can easily draw a line from My Throat is an Open Grave to My Heartstrings Come Undone to what's the song on the triptych? Anyway, my point is going to be that you can listen to the riffs, the guitar parts on a lot of their ballad songs and know this is the same band. that they're not necessarily referencing the same notes, but they kind of are. They're all. I feel like most of them are in the same key, though I'm not a super expert on that. But they definitely feel like they exist in the same space with the notes that they're using and the tempo and just the way that they approach the songwriting structurally, things like that. And that makes an album like this even extra special because going from song to song to song to song, you're walking down the same path. It's a path that makes sense to you the whole time. I don't think we're going to hear anything crazy out of left field in some crazy key or anything. I feel like all the songs are going to feel harmonically like this, but also just like arrangement-wise like this too. And that not all metal bands could take their ballads and say the same thing. Definitely more acoustic guitar tracks on this song. A little bit more on the strumming, spread out a little wider. I feel like there's a little bit more on the right. Oh. I do not think that there is additional female vocals. I think all the background vocals are Ryan on this song. That's what it sounds like to me now that we're further in. One thing Demon Hunter always does with their music, especially with their ballads, is they give the songs time to breathe. They're not afraid to stretch the songs out. You know, you should never feel like you weren't given the full experience when you're listening to one of their ballads. I feel like that could generally be said for all of their music, but specifically their ballads, these songs. And they're doing it on this album as well. They are taking their time with the arrangements. They're not afraid to have a song over, what is that? Over 5 minutes long, 5 minutes and 15 seconds. They're not afraid to have a song too long, and I commend them for that. I love that. Okay, we got strings starting. Piano has a bit of a different sound here, and we also are getting, is that like a harpsichord sound? It could be just an acoustic guitar. They have used harpsichord sort of sounds on some of their... Yeah. Oh, those vocal harmonies, yes. So we have acoustic guitar here. Pan to the left a little bit. It's not dead center. And it's being offset by the ride again. That nice, easy ride symbol. Strings are wide and in the middle a little bit as well. Ooh, the string arrangement here is amazing. Build it up. Or is it loneliness? So this is the one that has the female backing vocals. Oh my, Ryan is, oh, he is so good. Oh, this is so good. The way he can hold. No vibrato almost at all. So impressive. shoot. I said earlier that the other track 4 was the best on the album. This one might be the best. The strings are building up in terms of complexity of the arrangement as the song's going, which is giving the song a building feeling, not necessarily of tension, but okay, now everything drops out. We got held out notes. Those could be strings. It sounds almost like a choral patch on a keyboard. It sounds like there's some vocals in there. I wonder if that's female. If they have some sort of a vocal choral arrangement thing. Oh, and having the drums come. Okay, just on the ride again, very lightly. There's the female vocals, and she's harmonizing herself. Oh, when you have a male vocalist and a background female vocalist, you can do things like having the female vocalist do multiple harmonies, and it feels like almost throwbacky to the days of singing with, background singers, which obviously still happens nowadays, but, oh, the string arrangement. Do it. This is amazing. This is amazing. I wish so hard that so many of my favorite metal bands would do something like this, but I know that not all of them would have it in them to do this. I would love it if Soilwork did something like this, or In Flames did something like this. And it's just... amazing. When they broke it down there, you could hear a bit more vibrato on Ryan's vocals. And again, I'm a horrifically bad singer. And I don't know that much about vocals and singing technique or anything like that. But hearing him with the intimacy there and the vibrato and ending the phrases shorter or sooner than he would normally, it just makes it sound so much more meaningful. Those chords. Something is making those chords in the back, and it doesn't have a lot of high frequencies. It could be guitar overdubs. Six minutes. That's exactly what I was talking about. You can't have a 3-minute long song and do that. You can't evoke the same emotion. You have to go on a journey with the band. Okay. Acoustic guitar right in the middle. And we're kick, but also the driving force of the drums now is the snare, like a short mark, some sort of a quick marching cadence. So this song in a different key. I mean, I assume some of the songs have been in multiple keys. Music theory is not my forte either. I really don't have a forte, but this song you can tell a little different. The piano chords making the mix feel wide. I haven't really mentioned the bass at all. Not the kick drum, mind you, but the bass guitar. And that is because it's just drawling low notes. I am not... And that is pretty much how all of Demon Hunter... I was really paying attention to the bass the last few... When I've been listening to the Demon Hunter stuff more recently, the bass has no definition to it whatsoever. And it works. It having less definition in the bass and having the bass just function as the low frequencies that you're hearing, along with the kick drum and the lower resonance in Ryan's voice, really allows the drums, and in this case the piano and everything, to fill in all the spaces, the mid and high frequency spaces. But like I cannot discern different notes on the bass as I listen here. I mean, I guess you can kind of hear when he's plucking the note. I hear there's no roundedness to it or anything like that. Now, I will also say, if you took the bass away from this, it would sound so thin. There would be nothing happening in the lower register. The kick would be there, but the songs are relying so heavily on those sub frequencies of the bass. I feel like it's done very well. You do not need to have definition in the bass if its function is only going to be to add the low frequencies, which is, not that great for bass players. And a lot of bands have a lot of bass definition in the bass because the bass player is doing things that need to be heard. If you think about funk music or something like that, the bass is probably one of the most important instruments going. This song sounds familiar, but I can't place what it is. In my listening to the different Demon Hunter albums to prepare for this, I was just like, man, I do not know their more recent albums as much as I thought that I did. And I think a lot of that just has to do with being disappointed with certain aspects of it. I've never been the kind of person to just like dissect an album down, listen to it multiple times in a row. I never do that. My rule is to always listen to an album, then take it out of my CD player or whatever I'm doing and listen to something else. I never, ever, ever listen to something multiple times in a row. I let it sit for a while, then I go back to it. And the more excited I am to get back to it just means that the more I have more anticipation I have to listen to it again. And I don't know how I'm going to be able to wait to listen to this, though, because this is fantastic. If they did a live show of this and performed with like a string quartet, and they did it in like a small venue, and everyone in the crowd was quiet, and they recorded everything very professionally, this could be like one of the greatest live performances / like live albums or Blu-rays or whatever you would have it of all time. Now, that doesn't mean to say that I think that they should try to recreate this live or anything like that. I just know I personally like it when a band does something like this, and then they record it live, and then there's that sort of added emphasis to making it super clean and clear and crystal production and everything. As I've already said, this is the far more important thing to me, is that they went into the studio and they left it all in the studio. They did not hinder themselves. They did not limit or restrict themselves beyond the point of reason. They could have all sorts of acoustic guitar tracks floating around the spectrum as I'm listening now. They could have guitar on the left, guitar on the right, lead guitar in the middle, strumming, arpeggiated broken chords, all sorts of that. They don't. They just have it right in the middle, right there with Ryan's vocals. You could cut everything else away other than Ryan and the acoustic guitar. It wouldn't necessarily sound the greatest, but it would be the full song going basically the whole time, and you would still have the song. They could perform the songs like that. But as I've already said multiple times, I didn't want that. I wanted this. I wanted what they gave me, and oh my goodness, they gave it to me in spades. These arrangements are incredible. That was 5.5 minutes. We're on track 8 right now. Just acoustic guitar in the middle. Okay, we have a guitar harmony part on the left. I love how they started quiet and brought it in, and I think that was done dynamically playing, not necessarily bringing out the volume. Okay, here comes the piano. The strings building. Yes. Oh, yeah. Now, I wonder what's going to happen with the guitar solo here, because I love that starting with World is a Thorn, they added guitar solos, and I feel like that really took them metal-wise up a notch. Oh, I love these the vocal chords that Ryan, the chords that the vocal arrangement that he did for this song on the album. A memory. This vocal chord that they created. To the core. What an amazing vocal arrangement this song. Ooh. Yeah, picking it up. Shorter, more staccato-y notes on the strings. Ooh. The quality of the recording. I know I've said it multiple times, but oh, it is so good. Forevermore. Those vocal chords that he's creating. All right, what are they going to do with the bridge? Ooh, he went up there. Okay, all right. Ooh, close mic'd hi-hat. And the hi-hat is panned to the right here, whereas it has been panned to the left when it was big, and they had elements of it on the right. Give me an acoustic guitar solo or a violin solo. Give me something here. Give it to me. Yes. Okay. It doesn't hit as hard, but that's okay. It's not a guitar solo. It is string arrangements. And I'm okay with that. Build it up. Go away. Yes. Just the piano. And the piano's going. Forevermore. Yep. Ooh. Do the chorus again. Okay. Bring in more background vocals. Bashing those crashes. See, when you play quieter like that, how not necessarily quieter, but you're able to do things dynamically with the drums, with all of the instruments here because of these arrangements that you wouldn't be able to do in a metal song because there's too many things clashing and trying to gain your attention. But when everything is pulled back and stripped away and all of the elements are still there, but they're a lot more intimate and they're a lot more soft. Honestly, a lot of these sounds you're hearing are being played more soft. What is this song? Our Careless Feet Leaving Trails. This is the song that I was thinking of off of Triptych. Track 4 or whatever. Track 5. No, this one's definitely a different key. Or Ryan's just singing an octave up, I think. Build a thing, build a thing. Will, my will. Just piano. Sorry, I hear those delays. I hear those echoes. I should have done this video with less lighting so it was darker. That would fit the new mood better. At least I got my candle up there. I need a heart. How big is this gonna get? When I'm wondering, you know, in the song on the album, the drums kick in and it's everything comes in. Are they gonna keep it just piano? Maybe add some strings, or are they gonna kick drum and everything coming in? Well, no. No? Okay. Just piano. You know what? I'm okay with it. And Ryan's voice is much drier here. I noticed that right away. Fragile day. Sorry, I'm trying not to sing. Ooh, cool chord. Another really cool example of an album like this to look up if you're in the mood for something maybe very different. The German electronic band VNV Nation, they have an album called Resonance. They were supposed to go do a cruise tour. This was back in 2015, 2016, I think, maybe 2014. They were supposed to go do a cruise on a cruise and play a show with just a string section and the singer. Well, it didn't work out. And the cruise was canceled or something. And so they decided to make it up to all their fans. They would just go in the studio and record full studio versions. And it is fantastic. Go look that up. It's called Resonance by VNV Nation. We got both vocal overdub here. We all end in... I'm going to see if I can find who's playing the piano. I'm just going to the back page again. Vocals by Ryan Clark, guitars by Patrick Judge and Jeremiah Scott, okay? Drums by Tim Yogi Watts, piano by Joanna Ott. Joanna Ott is the wonderful person we have to thank for this amazing piano performance. Strings arranged, performed, and recorded by Chris Carmichael. So that tells me that it was probably one person or maybe multiple people, but recorded individually, and then the takes were layered. Joanna Ott, though, thank you very much for providing the backbone of this album. And the only instrument on this song. But of all the Demon Hunter songs, this makes sense. Oh, they tricked me. They got me. I didn't expect that. Dude, the tempo here, just taking their time, it feels like humans playing slowly. It doesn't feel like something set to a grid. They got me so good. I love that. Gang vocals? This better not be the last song on the album. Oh, there is acoustic guitar in there. Strummed. Ooh. ending it on a not a root chord. All right, we'll see what they do with this one. Interesting. The stained glass door. So here they have acoustic guitar panned left and right a little bit to kind of balance each other. Oh. Oh, everything went away during the chorus here. Okay, that's an interesting way to do it. This song so far is probably the most different from the original arrangement. With that sort of rhythmic beginning with the play and then pause. Then play and then pause. That's fun. It's fun because they can wait as long as they want. If you follow along with the tempo. It is slow. I love that little hit there. You can tell they're having fun, probably looking at each other through the windows in the studio. Just waiting as long as possible to get those downbeats in. Okay. They didn't, second chorus here, they did not take everything away, leave it minimal. And Ryan's harmonies are always so good. Everything Ryan does is good. Which, for those of you who have never heard his side project, Knives, N-Y-V-E-S, check that out. Drums a lot more dry on this song. But it's okay. That kick still sounds massive in the same. That was a little interesting to have the acoustic guitar be the only thing there, and then when everything came back in, the acoustic guitars went back to where they had been in the mix before. Little to the right, little to the left, strummed in the middle of the mix. It was an artistic choice thing there, and it worked, definitely. I'm not complaining about it, but sometimes that could be jarring if you're focusing on, like, oh, here's the acoustic guitar, and then there's the acoustic guitars, and here it is, and there. So. Interesting background vocal there. Something like a harmony going on over the top. That does not sound like Ryan. Could be one of the other members of the band. Okay. Gosh, that's track 10. I don't know how many tracks are on the album. Tide began to rise. Wait, they haven't done My Heartstrings Come Undone yet. You guys, I'm going to cheat. Ha! Okay, so this is the penultimate song on the album. So I wonder how they will do the ending of this song then. Because I feel like this would be the perfect song to end with. However, I think, and I could be wrong about this, I think the biggest song they've ever had is My Heartstrings Come Undone. Okay, we have a totally different sounding vocal from Ryan. There's like a warble there. Now, this song is very similar so far to the way they had it on the album. Okay, now his vocals are normal again and right in the middle. Okay. I don't have too big of a problem with that. A little jarring when it changed. Okay. So that sounds like they're having... That does not sound like Ryan doing the background vocals here. And that was one of the things I was mentioning earlier. Like, Ryan used to have lots of overlapping vocals. So I love this. Having two other members of the band do it, yeah, that's really cool. It gives it a live feel. Are they going to have Ryan's voice go back to the warble? Okay, the acoustic guitars on this song sound totally different. Much more body, much more high-end to them. Much more of that tinkly. You hear the pick sound, and they are panned left and right. This is more kind of what I anticipated the album being. I'm glad the whole album wasn't like this, though for this, it's working very well. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm complaining, because I'm not. Okay, now it's back to clean vocal. That's great. Ryan could be in there doing it. But I don't know. He could be one of the guys doing it. Kind of does sound like him. Sounds very different from him, though, so... All right, how are they going to do this? I love this part of this song. Okay. There's a bit of that warble effect on the piano. Okay, Ryan's in the lower register here, whereas on the album he's so high in his soprano voice almost, or his crashing. And again, they're playing with the tempo. They're letting it. Hi-hats now instead. Okay, this all feels a lot more intimate, and I understand that they would go this route rather than having it explode. Building it up again, going back to the crashes. Bringing in the third vocal part. This is how you write vocals. There's some sub frequencies in here as well. It almost sounds like a church organ or something in the background. Great, lots of reverb, a lot of very wet signals. All right, here we go. Well, will it just be strings and singing? That would certainly set it apart from the other songs. Not sure what to think about this. We'll see where the song goes. Again, this is the very close mic'd strings sound. Now, they have already recorded an acoustic version of this song, if not two. Like I said, it's the secret song at the end of Summer of Darkness, I believe. Since this is their biggest song and it's one of their oldest, being off their second album, this is probably the song they're the most sick of, so I could understand them trying to do something different with it. Again, very layered vocals that are over the top of each other. Impossible to do live. Not that you should worry about that. What a good song. Simple song. What a good song, though. Building up the strings with the arrangement here. Staccato notes. Or at least significantly more staccato-y. I have to say, I'm a little disappointed with this. I know that the original song is already a slow ballad song. All these songs have been. I know they've already done acoustic versions of this, but to have a more similar to the original song arrangement of this song, I feel like would have been special. Now, this is very special, though. It's totally different. The only song on the album that's just a string arrangement and vocals. Some low growly frequencies in there. So now here's Ryan's doing the vocals here on the last chorus, or penultimate chorus here, in one take rather than overlapping. before I make my final run. And oh boy. Okay. There we have it. So if you clicked and skipped everything and you're here to hear my overall thoughts, the first thing I have to say is that this album is incredible. It's amazing. It is recorded, I don't want to necessarily say flawlessly, but it is the best production that's ever been put onto a Demon Hunter album without question. It's obviously it's extremely different production. You can't really compare this to any of their metal albums because it's so different. And I talked a lot when I was listening to it about the different ways that they managed to take advantage of having the songs sound more intimate and not necessarily less complex. Some of these songs have very complex arrangements, much more complex in terms of the chord structuring and things like that, which as I said, music theory is not necessarily my forte at all. But you can tell that there is more complex movements happening, from note to note, from chord to chord going on. There were some transitions and things that felt different and almost felt like they were, changing keys here and there and things like that. So from an arrangement standpoint, I love everything that they did. I think the flow of the album was great, having it go from there were no fast songs on the album, though there were some songs that had more to it than other songs. There were only two songs. I believe is Deteriorate the name of that song from the triptych? I feel terrible that I don't know this. I don't often pay too much attention to the titles of the songs. Yeah, Deteriorate, the Our Careless Feet Leaving Trails. Never minding the fragile dirt we all tread in. That song. That song was just piano and Ryan's vocals, and then they got me. They tricked me at the end there and added the band at the end of the song, and I loved it. I love that. And then other than that, My Heartstrings Come Undone, the last song on the album, which to me is a pretty big, I don't want to say it's a big disappointment. It's just that when you have an album that's so fantastic and so full of all these amazing ideas, to then have that be the last song, I'm disappointed. They should have had Tide Began to Rise. As I stated in the video, they should have had Tide Began to Rise be the last song on the album. I think it's the greatest, one of the best closing songs of all time, any album. I really think that it is. So I think that Ryan's performance throughout is standout. I think that Ryan and the piano, which I looked up, I believe is Joanna Ott. There's a picture of her in the booklet. I was just looking at the booklet here. There is a picture of her there. I'll try to zoom in on that a little. She and Ryan are the standouts of this album. The piano sounds fantastic. Everything sounded fantastic. But the piano was not someone just playing the chords along with the song. The piano was truly thought out and arranged, and every aspect of the song was like that. But like with the acoustic guitars, for example, if you took the acoustic guitar away, you couldn't have you could do that and you'd still have the song intact for the most part on most of the songs. The driving force was the piano in terms of filling the space and also driving the song and the melody and the rhythm along. The drums were fantastic. They weren't necessarily the greatest sounding drums I've ever heard, but they fit this and they fit the tone perfectly. The kick was massive and huge, and it sounded great, and there was verb on it, and it just made it sound massive. The snare was much more pushed back in the mix with a lot of reverb on it, which gave the drums a lot of room feel to them, and that worked because you don't want to have the snare, which can be a very harsh sounding instrument. If you are just in a room, the snare is the thing that's going to make you go, oh, stop playing the drums, or the cymbals, very, very high, shrill cymbals as well. But the snare being washy and back further allowed everything else to be brought up to the forefront a little bit more. However, the snare was still present enough in the mix to be there and to be the rhythmic element that it needed to be to sort of help move the songs on. The downbeat with the kick is always important, but the receiving beat, the off beat, the twos and the fours, if you will, the snares really are just as important for driving. And then in terms of the cymbals, that was really interesting to pay attention to throughout. There were moments where the drums were very dry sounding in terms of the cymbals, or the overhead sounds were dry to make everything feel a little bit more close. But then for the most part, when the drummer Yogi was just bashing the cymbals and playing, the cymbals were very washed out and very far in the back. Not a lot of high frequencies, definitely low pass filters on them to keep them from interfering with the other high frequencies that were happening in the mix, most of which were coming from the strings, if the strings were there, though they were not very super high frequencied. I would say the highest of the high frequencies in these mixes came from Ryan's voice, which is good because that makes it sound intimate, makes it feel intimate, and it makes it sound like Ryan's right there. And he needs those high frequencies there to help with his diction, to make sure everything is very clear and understood and nothing is muddy or warbled or anything like that. His voice was really great in terms of sitting in the mix. It is the most prominent thing you're hearing. That's what it needed to be in these songs. A lot of metal vocals are mixed down in the mix because that's not necessarily the most important thing. The vocals are just sort of the rhythmic thing, the harsh rhythmic thing to sort of sit in the middle of all the chaos happening around it. And then when it gets to the choruses with Demon Hunter, that's where the sort of singing voice comes in, and that's where Ryan traditionally would have many overdubs, and there would be like a giant feeling to make the whole song get bigger and louder, and not necessarily louder, but bigger and more, not necessarily even more chaotic. In some cases they're pulling back, but when you add many layers, that's where everything can just sound fuller. And they did that on this album as well. A lot of the times during the verses, if there was an overdub, it would just be one, and it was very tight and close, and Ryan did it like spot on, so you almost couldn't even tell that there was a harmony vocal in there. But during the choruses, they were a lot more willing to let the vocals fill the space more in terms of the background vocals. I think the arrangements for this were all perfect. I think, as I said, as I was listening to the album, tracks 6 and 4 were my absolute favorites. So that would be Loneliness and Praise the Void, which I'm not even sure which Demon Hunter. Let's check here. Praise the Void. Is that an Outlive song? Nope. Oh boy. True Defiance. Uh-oh. Well, now what the heck? I may have to cut this, because now I just seem stupid. Huh, well, look at me, I'm terrible. I don't know what that song's from. Unless they did it as original. Praise the Void. Huh. Oh, is that... hold on. Is that the last... Nope. Sorry, I have to know. I Play Dead was another one that I was thinking they could have tried to do. What the... I know it's not on the triptych. Huh. Well, I'm confused. Let me know in the comments how stupid I am, which album that's from. Anyway, 4 and 6 are my favorites. I think that those songs were great. Big, they were my favorite arrangements on the song, as well as just my favorite performances. Like I said, Ryan shone there the whole time. Like the spotlight was on him. His voice was more exposed in these mixes than it has ever been on any of the Demon Hunter stuff, and he nailed it perfectly. So I see that my camera's running out of footage, which means I'm going to have to narrow this video down. So I'll just say, was this the best Demon Hunter album? I think that's impossible to say because, you know, Demon Hunter's a metal band, and this is not a metal album. However, I think this is the best production that Demon Hunter's ever had. I think it's the best performances from every member of the band. I could have done with a few more acoustic guitar solos or solos in general, but their music and these songs don't generally have a lot of solos in them. That's more of a recent Demon Hunter arrangement thing. Let me know what you thought of this album in the comments, and I love it. I'm sorry, I'm trying to rush here to get to the end, and I don't want to rush. So let me know what you think in the comments, and stay tuned for whatever album I choose to listen to in the future. Thank you very much. Bye.